It's been more than a week since the White House revoked the press pass of CNN correspondent Jim Acosta over what they said was rude behavior. The administration changed their reasons a couple of times. At any rate, today, a federal judge ruled in CNN's favor and Acosta is back in business for now. It all started when Jim Acosta refused to cede the mic and persisted with questions to the president.
That's enough.
Ask one of the other folks.
That's enough. I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person.
Later that day, the White House revoked Acosta's press pass, something that didn't go down well with CNN attorneys.
We can't have a president acting like dictators do all over the world to silence reporters that they don't like.
But basically, the president said he can do whatever he wants for whatever reason he wants.
In other words, the president's saying he gets to choose.
But after trying to work things out behind the scenes, CNN filed suit, saying the revocation was essentially unconstitutional and violates the First and Fifth Amendments. Today, a federal judge ruled in CNN's favor.
Breaking news now, just into CNN. A federal judge has sided with CNN, saying the White House was wrong to revoke our colleague Jim Acosta's press pass.
But like most court rulings, there's a hitch.
But what the judge said was, if you are going to take away a hard pass, there has to be some sort of explanation, some sort of process, some sort of standards for doing that.
Acosta got his pass back this afternoon. Still, don't think you've heard the last of this. Yeah, so as you all remember, originally the White House claimed that Acosta lost his pass because he assaulted that White House intern. Turns out that was, of course, a doctored tape. They sped up the added frames to it, so it made it look like Acosta did a couple of arm chops on that intern, which he did not. So then they changed the story and said it was because it was disruptive and he wouldn't cede the microphone. Those were the reasons. But as the judge, who, by the way, was appointed by the Trump administration, said, no, it has to be more than that. In fact, usually it has to be something quite dramatic, like a clear and present danger to the president or something like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if the administration went back and tried to make a case for taking away his pass permanently.
I would be surprised. I think they got what they wanted out of this. They made Acosta the butt of their anger and took his pass away for a few days. And I think they may be fairly satisfied with the way this turned out. I mean, just on constitutional grounds, they're just wrong. They're under no obligation to have news conferences. But once you have a news conference, you have to allow any properly credentialed reporter in there. So they're not going to win on this. Acosta should be careful, though. You know, I mean, when it's time to give up the mic, you give up the mic.
And you don't say, I want to challenge you. You know, ask a question.
No.
That's been part of Acosta's MO. Even before he got that position at the White House, only now he gets more attention and he has someone to play off of, as in President Trump. And I always get the sense that Acosta is trying to out-Trump Trump. There is that way that you handle yourself during the official press conferences. You ask a question of the president, you can have a follow-up, but you don't sit there and do a back and forth and badger the president. Granted, this is a different kind of president, but that's typically how it works. Now, if you're in one of those more freewheeling, the president's walking down a hall, you can pepper him with all kinds of questions and do follow-ups and those kinds of things. But I do think, this is how Acosta has always operated, and now it has gotten him into this position, which I don't think he feels that badly about, because this is kind of
everybody knows his name.
Everybody knows his name. At the same time, I feel like no matter how someone acts, unless they're physically violent or doing something illegal, they can't be kept out of the White House, and I agree with the decision so far.
This, I think one of the things that's been interesting to watch this, almost every story about it decried the White House decision and Sarah Sanders' explanation, which she had to back up on, but almost all of them also attached a word, a description to Acosta like showboating, and so his reputation is out there. But that's not without precedent. You remember, we all do, Sam Donaldson. And that's what Sam Donaldson did to get attention, and it I think distinguished him from so many others. But I would go back to, we shouldn't overlook, I think, what was the fundamental question here, and that is, Dan, you touched on it, should the president have that ability to just basically decide who he lets in and who not? Because the end result of that, obviously, is that you have essentially a chorus of people, a Greek chorus, applauding everything that you do. And so I think in this regard, I applaud the judge for stepping forward, irrespective of who it was that appointed him there. That was an interesting move.
Well, not only do you have just people there who would be supporting the president, you also have a dictatorship because if he's allowed to say who can come in and question him, that goes against everything that we have said are our values, and so that just can't be. I was pleased to see that the rest of the news organization sort of stood with him, but I'd like to see them stand a little stronger, as I've said. You know, I think it would behoove everybody, to all of you, not be there one time. Just don't respond.
I think the sticking point, though, is Jim Acosta himself. That if it had been somebody who just asked a question that he didn't like and he threw him out, but Jim Acosta has, put himself front and center and made himself kind of the story. So.
Well, maybe, but in this case, and it's too bad because the president called on him first, so clearly...
No, it wasn't first.
Yeah, I thought he was first.
No, it wasn't.
I thought he was first.
No.
So he was, looking for a fight. That was my point.
The key is the president called on him.
Yes.
The hard pass only gets you access.
That's correct.
Doesn't get you called on.
And he had not been calling on him for a while, too.
That's right. And to be clear, what Acosta said is of no consequence. I think where he ought to be careful is not giving up the mic when they're asking you to give up the mic.
True.